Hey, so once more I must say, damn, it has been a while, but I at least have a semi-valid excuse this time, and that excuse is that I'm an idiot. See, I had written the script and edited the footage for the Eastern Conference Finals matchup versus the Atlanta Hawks, and then when I went to record the commentary over the footage of the Hawks series, I had realized that I accidentally deleted permanently all of the footage when I was clearing space on my laptop. So basically, making that episode became impossible, and that really demoralized me and resulted in a big ass delay. Like, I just did not feel like making a Sixers video for the longest time because it was so annoying that happened. So now I have to summarize the Hawks series rather than showing it. This is why there has been a month since the last upload, and I'm really sorry for that, but I just really could not do it with this one because of deleting that. It was very demoralizing. But let's talk about this Hawks series. This was an interesting matchup. Once again, we managed to lose in game one. I suppose we're just incapable of winning game ones. We actually had a decent handle on this game because the strategy I had was putting Paul George on Trae Young, and that was working. He had 0 at halftime on like a couple of shot attempts as well. He just could not put it in the basket. But in the third, he scored over 20 points and he finished the game with 40. So that's a losing formula. Game 2, we bounced back in crazy fashion as Ben and George combined for 76 points, and PG holds Trae to just 40% from the field and 16% from 3. Game 3 was yet another pretty easy win. George dropped 40, Ben had 16 assists, and Gary Trent came off of the bench with 29 points. Young did have himself a crazy good game again this time around, but it was not quite enough for the Hawks. Game 4 was more of the same. George had nearly 40, and Trae went off, but we won. So now with a 3-1 series lead, all we need to do is win one more game to close out the series. But in Game 5, despite George, Simmons, and CJ combining for 104 points between them, and no, that is not a joke, Trae Young went berserk with 57 goddamn points. Not much you can do about that, even when you have 3 players combined for almost all of your points. But after an insane Game 3, we closed out Game 6 with a 35-point blowout. Trae this game shot just 9 for 29, and Ben had 30, 30, and 15. Which is like, bro, how do you do that? So we took care of Atlanta in 6, despite Trae having some insane performances, and with that, we have finally won the Eastern Conference, which means we're heading to the NBA Finals. And who is our matchup? Well, it's a fucking storybook ending and a half because we have the Portland Trailblazers, the team we traded Joel Embiid to in the very first episode of this series. So we started with Embiid, and it's looking like we're going to end with him. But unfortunately, unlike for this series, the Blazers do not end with Embiid because they of course have Damian Lillard, but they also have Bradley Beal. On top of this, the supporting cast isn't bad. Josh Richardson, another former Sixer, is their small forward. Nazir Little, who is a great defender and now a pretty reliable three-point shooter, is their starting 4, and off of the bench they have Ben McLemore, Thaddeus Young, and Andre Roberson. So this is a scary team, and if the game we had in the regular season versus them that included 2 buzzer beaters from us is any indication, this should be a pretty wild series. But let's talk matchups. This big 3 being what it is means we have a difficult task defensively. Luckily though, we are the best defense in the league and have a pretty good matchup. First of all, I'm putting Paul George on Damian Lillard. I'm hoping his size will bother Dame. Now, I know it wasn't a huge factor in one particular shot involving these two, but I think it should work out. As for Beal, I'm going with putting Drew Holiday on him, but I could very well shift this matchup to Jeremy Grant if I need to get more size for that matchup, but I prefer Drew over Grant simply because A, Drew is faster than Grant, which is important for the matchup, but B, in this series, I need Jeremy to do more heavy lifting in the off-ball help department, because with Ben having the Embiid matchup, he's not going to be able to bring much help, which is unfortunate, but necessary because no one else on this team can defend Embiid, and even Ben is not the most ideal matchup. In fact, Grant will probably be playing a lot of his help defense on Joel in hopes that it will fluster him in the post and force him to kick it out to the perimeter. Grant gets the Nazir Little matchup, and CJ has Josh Richardson, where they should both be fine. As for our offense, well, Ben has never had any issues scoring on Embiid. Every time I've played them, he just gets by him easily. He cannot post him up but he can beat him on the perimeter pretty much every time. CJ should not struggle with Beal on him, nor should PG with Richardson. Of course, Embiid being in the paint is a factor for everyone as he's a great rim protector, but I'm not too concerned about this team's defense giving us trouble. The way we lose this series is by being outscored. We might have the best player in this series, that's certainly up for debate, but we sure as hell don't have the second best and barely the third best. We're going to have to contain their big three, or at the very least contain one or two of them and let one of them go off so the overall damage is not too severe. So that is the formula. Stop Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, and Joel Embiid from all going off. Maybe one, maybe even two. It's a tall task with all three of these guys being players who have averaged 28 or more in some points in their careers, but if any team can slow them down defensively, it will be this one. So with that, I guess let's just get into it. Okay guys, I swear on my life that I tried my best to cut this series down to a reasonable length, but it got to a point where I just had to cut out pretty much essential clips for the flow of the game to be properly appreciated. I mean, we're 15 seconds into this thing and the first quarter just ended. So this series, just a little spoiler alert, this series is absolutely insane. So many close games, so many awesome plays. So just get ready for a great series, because as I said earlier when I mentioned the game that we played against them in the regular season, that game that had two buzzer beaters, one from Ben Simmons cutting to the basket and one for Paul George who got a catch and shoot from mid-range, that this team just matches up so well with us, and I think we match up so well with them. So it's just a dogfight every time we play this team, and getting this to be a final series, especially knowing that Joel Embiid is on this team and this whole series started with trading him, that's definitely a very storybook ending, and I was pretty happy to see this was the team that we matched up against, even though playing against LeBron and Anthony Davis would have been cool. Being able to play Joel Embiid and seeing the Blazer side of things to the point where this trade isn't like black and white, oh yeah, we won this one, or the Blazers definitely won this one. I mean, both teams end up making the finals as a result of these moves, so I think it's a pretty even trade, and now it's just really the battle of who officially won it as this series plays out. So speaking of the game thus far, like I said, very close. We're getting to the fourth quarter already, and it's a relatively close game. Dame coming off of this screen gets the wide open three. I got caught on the screen there, and that happens quite often, and it's very frustrating, even when I try to avoid the screen. Very good and fast break right there off of the free throw miss. Just two passes, wide open three to Gary Trent. Closing this one out, though, we are now up 3 points with that dunk by Ben Simmons. Josh Richardson makes that one to tie the game up. He's another former Sixer that's on this team. Embiid gets a difficult layup in the paint, but he's able to be matched there by CJ. So 88 points now. Horrible pass by Ben Simmons there, but I had no confidence I was going to be able to finish that layup over Embiid, and then I just gave Damian Lillard too much space on that one. Drew Holiday missing that three-pointer, but Ben is able to put back the shot, so we're down just one at this point, but I fucked up that rotation, so Embiid was able to get the clean cut to the basket, which Dame found for the dunk. Down three now. Ben Simmons just going to drive and shoot that over Josh Richardson. It was kind of ugly, but it worked. Dame misses this mid-range shot, and now with the chance to take the lead, rather than slowing things down, I'm going to take advantage of the defense not being set, go inside, and Ben Simmons just able to get his way to the basket. I really wish the CPU's defense was smart and brought Embiid to the paint, but that's not what happened. And then for the final play for the Blazers, Beal, good look, does not go in. I don't know why I called a timeout. I could have just done what I'm about to do right here, which is just shoot a full court shot before they can foul. But yeah, we win that one. Very solid game from pretty much the whole team around. It was a good effort by the Blazers as well. Dame and Embiid combined for 50. Beal had an efficient 18 and 7, but we were able to win this one. And I have noticed when playing the Blazers that Beal really goes into that third player role. Like, he is definitely third in the shot chart. I don't know if it's like from 2K settings or anything, but like every game Embiid and Damian Lillard have a better series, or more shots, I should say. So yeah, Beal is definitely the clear third guy, which is why I'm pretty happy with the Jrue Holiday matchup. I mentioned the Grant thing earlier. I want to use him as a help defender in this series. And speaking of defense, great inbound steal right there by Paul George, who gets it to speak of the devil Grant for that layup. Dame with the 3 off screen, and Beal, right as I'm talking about him, gets the and 1 on Paul George. A very nifty pass right there by Paul George to Ben Simmons, who does a reverse dunk despite the fact that defense is there. Very easily could have ended poorly, but luckily it did not. CJ is having a very good game in this one. 2 green releases back to back. This is probably one of the best games I've had from CJ in general. Another green release shot there because Gary Trent also came to play. Also in these playoffs in general, Gary Trent has not been as amazing as he was in last year's playoff run, but he was really good in this final series. So like he finally really came to play when it was time for the finals. But as you see, the Blazers getting a decently sizable lead here, at least for what this series has been. So now a 8 or 7 point game that was, now it's a 7-point game again. Nice cut in there by Ben Simmons with the good pass from CJ off of the inbound play. But another green release right there from CJ on a step back, which is a difficult shot to get a green release on, but we don't protect the paint there properly. 6-point game now. Nice drive there by Paul George with the left hand through the contact. They try to get that to Dame on the backdoor, read that all the way through, and then Paul George with the 3-pointer on the break. That one had to go in. That was huge. Bradley Beal at the free throw line misses one, which is yet another huge thing. Not shooting as well today. As you see in the left corner, he's 2 for 7 from 3, but he does make that second free throw. So 4 points, we have a chance. And then I do that very early, doing a moving shot, which does not work. And then Dame not missing free throws at the line. And then you thought the last one was bad. Well, look at that one. Yeah, late game execution was poor in this one, so we lose that game as a result of that. Ben Simmons was 10 for 10. CJ brought in a good game. PG brought in a good game. Really, there were pretty much almost no games where our team had poor performances. It's just both of these teams were so well matched, and you give them an inch, they'll get a mile, because that's just the nature of the matchup. A good fast break ran right there early into this first quarter. Beal with a step back, snatch back jump shot from 3, and then CJ gets him right back with the wide open 3 from Ben Simmons. Beal missing this 3-pointer, and then on the fast break, Ben Simmons driving, Embiid behind him. He probably could have took advantage of that, but nah, Paul George wants to shoot that 3-pointer right in his defender's eye. Jrue Holiday, drive inside, easy kick out to Gary Trent. You can't give him that shot. He's going to make it every time. This play right here, when you look at what that play was, Dame and Embiid were the screeners for Bradley Beal as a ball handler. How unfair is that as a 3-pointer right there by Jrue Holiday? But, like, I have to defend all 3 of those players on that play at the same time. Like, 3 guys who have averaged around 30 points per game in their careers. Like, that is some wild shit to have to defend. And luckily, best defense in the league, able to do a pretty good job of it. But it's definitely not a difficult definitely not an easy matchup, rather. It is a difficult matchup. Right here, fade away for Ben Simmons. I actually attempt those from time to time. They never go in, despite his decent fadeaway rating, but that one went in. Also, step back 3 right there from Paul George that went in as well. Embiid with the pull-up mid-range shot, which you don't see him taking too often. Also, I was giving Embiid 3-pointers in this series, and he was actually making them for the most part, but it didn't end up being too consequential. Another big 3 from Gary Trent. Right, like I said, a very good game, but very good series from him. But closing this quarter, crazy shot by Embiid right there on the face-up. Great pass from Embiid to the cutting Lillard. Lillard misses that 3 right there with a good contest from Dragic, who just went flying. And then the man himself, Gary Trent, green release right in his defender's face. Ben McLemore that time. But Bradley Beal, gorgeous pass to Embiid. Dame driving inside, gets that mid-range jumper to fall. Is a 3-point game now with less than a minute remaining. Ben Simmons running the break. This always tends to result in good things. Easy dunk right there with a little crossover to get by Lillard. Beal passed it to Embiid, and I was sadly not able to intercept that one from Ben Simmons. CJ, this is a very clean look to tie the game, and it does not drop. So now once again we are sending the Blazers to the free throw line, and Dame makes both of them. So it's not over yet, as Gary, another great shot. Like, that's 6 3-pointers right there. But Dame makes his free throws again. It's a 4-point game now. Ben Simmons with this play, because we don't have a timeout anymore, so we have to run full court. And then Paul George, annoyingly, makes this 3-pointer with 0.5 seconds left, which means it doesn't matter, like at all. Like, they inbound it, game over. So we are now down 2-1, and game 4 is in Portland. So there is a very real chance that we end up going down 3-1 despite a good performance once again across the board. I mean, Gary was 2 points away from us having 4 players with 20 points, but it just didn't work out that way. Paul George, fast break 3-pointer, good start right there for him. Damian Lillard with this pull-up that looked rather awkward with that animation, but that's just how 2K is sometimes. And one dunk for Ben Simmons. The one thing that I have to try not to abuse, very good block there by Ben Simmons with the help defense. I have to try not to abuse the Ben Simmons on Embiid matchup just because Embiid simply cannot keep up with Ben on the perimeter, as you see right here with this nice little crossover for the easy dunk. I swear to God, Ben averages like 10 dunks per game, which is not realistic at all. Dame hits that 3-pointer. This was one of Dame's better games, at least for the half it was. He gets the dunk right there as he just pushes through our entire defense. Yeah, I've expressed this problem multiple times in my commentaries. I just wish that Ben was a little less overpowered. I mean, Dame hits that shot. That'll show you what kind of game he's having thus far. Hits this one as well. Like, what do I do about that? Like, that was an incredible contest from Paul George, and it just doesn't matter. Grant misses that 3, and then Ben breaks out the windmill for the putback dunk. Another dunk right there, another dunk right there, and then another dunk right there. I had to edit it like that just because it was funny that he dunked on all those possessions in a row. Like I said, the dunk thing, it's a little annoying. Paul George hits that 3-pointer, which means that PG, Embiid hits this, that PG and Ben combined for 39 points in the first half, which is absolutely ludicrous. CJ with the mid-range pull-up, Gary Trent with the open 3-pointer. Every time I put Ben in the post there, they run a play to get a shooter open out of that corner with a screen, and I always appreciate it. Nice drive there by Jeremy Grant, and then Nazir Little is a good defender, but he's too small for Ben Simmons. That play didn't really work out, but then Gary Trent just bails us out. He really just had a phenomenal series for what he normally does, and he was playing like this in last year's playoffs, but in the first 3 rounds, he really wasn't playing all that amazing, and he turned that around in this one. Also, there was a very good defense-to-offense play right there with a good pass from Ben Simmons. There was a rotation change I made where Dragic plays a lot less and CJ plays a lot of point guard, which gives more opportunity for Gary Trent in over Dragic. That lineup change came in the playoffs, and Gary Trent is finally taking advantage of it in this final series. You saw that dunk right there for Embiid. Ben is able to get the full court pass off of the inbound there to take advantage of that, and then the Blazers miss that shot. Throw this pass to Ben Simmons on the pick and roll. Once again, look how fucking close this game is. Like, I think the first 4 games, the difference in the wins was like 2 points or something like that, I calculated. So, up 4 now. Obviously, right now, CJ gets the free throws, and then he is just ice cold with these. He's the best free throw shooter. He's better than Paul George at it, so I'm giving him these attempts. Bradley Beal ices that 3-pointer from deep. I did not think that thing was going to drop, but then CJ ice cold both of the free throws once more. So now they give it to Thad Young to shoot it. You have Dame and Beal on your team, and you're giving it to Thaddeus Young to shoot the ball. CJ misses this free throw after making the one previous, but it did not matter as we win this game by 6 points. So we are now in a tied series going into Game 5. Ben Simmons with 35 points, 4 blocks as well. That's absolutely insane. Paul George had a solid game, and then Damian Lillard. The story of this game for the Blazers was Dame was amazing in the first half, and he was really bad in the second. But Game 5 I decided to simulate because I knew this series was going to be a long edit, so it cut down on the time a little bit by simulating a good chunk of it, and we get in for like the last 5 minutes or so. Dame with the drive inside, and we were only up 1. CJ with the nice mid-range pull-up. That thing is always gorgeous when it goes in. Then he gets by Beal and dishes it back to Ben Simmons for the dunk. Of course, Embiid just not able to keep up with Ben. But horrible rotation there as CJ came to defend Beal. Well, Drew Holiday was on him, and it just led to a wide-open 3 for Beal. That was a potentially costly mistake, but a good drive from Drew Holiday to get the shot for Ben. Dame, once again, doesn't matter how hard I contest the threes, they just go in. But CJ at the line now, like I said, he's my go-to free throw guy. We have a 3-point game. Dame, very clean look out of the corner, and it doesn't drop. Once again, I chuck the full court shot. So we escape Game 5 with Dame very easily being able to have put that game into overtime. Luckily, he did not. But speak of the devil, horrible defensive rotation on my part. I just completely fell for that play and allowed Dame to get that open three-pointer. Crazy shot there by Paul George. I was surprised he made that one. A good dive inside by Ben Simmons from the high post. But don't pick up Dame on the fast break. That is what's going to happen. And like, I had my mind laser focused on Dame for the most part in this series, and it still didn't matter. I mean, that was not the greatest defense in the world, but it was solid enough. Just didn't matter. LaMarcus Aldridge mid-range shot there over. Oh, I also forgot to mention for that Game 5, LaMarcus in simulation had 25 points. And what's interesting about this series is outside of just the trade itself, there's history between these teams, and specifically LaMarcus Aldridge off of our bench played for the Blazers for years. So him playing against them in the finals is certainly something interesting, even if he's doing it as a role player at this point. But it's definitely interesting. Alley-oop there, and one for Ben Simmons. Gets by Dame here for the dunk. The Blazers got to a pretty sizable lead here, but we've slowly crawled back into this one. Now just a 3-point game off of that shot from Gary Trent, and he's going to take the lead here with the jab step three-pointer over Ben McLemore, showing who the true shooter is. And then once again, 3 three-pointers in a row for Gary Trent Jr. Glad he's really back to what he was doing in the playoffs, because there were moments where he was our best player in the 2022 playoffs, I think it was. Yeah. Ben Simmons with the dunk on the fast break. It's now a tied game. Why in God's name was I defending Dame like that? Luckily, CJ's able to mash it on the other end, but then once again, I really was a little late with the contest, and even though I got under him enough to change the animation, still drops. Lob right there to Ben Simmons makes it a 1-point game. Embiid missing that fadeaway on the baseline, and now running the break. I have a real opportunity here. I drive into Dame in hopes of getting the free throws, and luckily I made them when they counted. So Ben with a 40 bomb, if you had not noticed that, but horrible defense there once again on the pick and roll. I always undercommit to the cut inside, and then I make a bad pass by Drew Holiday there. Dame luckily gets blocked on that by PG, which is honestly a bad shot on the fast break, but the way Dame was going, he was probably going to make it. But gets caught on the screen this time, still right under him, but you got to get a hand up or else Dame time is going to happen. So now we're down 2, 14 seconds remaining. Why is that the animation that CJ gets on that layup? That is the most slow animation to get blocked in the world. Luckily, Josh Richardson's the guy shooting these free throws, and he misses one. So we have an opportunity here, but then that happens. So, yeah. Some poor late-game execution, and yet another game for us here. That's very tragic. So, with a 5-point game with 3 seconds left, game's over. Just add on to it a turnover once more just to really nail that one home. So we lose this one. The Blazers now have the series lead at 3-2. Dame with 49 points. Ben with 41 himself, but no one else really showed up in the scoring department. CJ with 4 for 15 in that one. That was one of the few games where we had one of our core players underperform. Nice 3 there by Drew Holiday, but even then Ben Simmons overperformed to match that, and it just didn't happen. So Dame, once again, same story, fast break, don't pick him up, that's what's going to happen. Ben, dish out there to Gary Trent, continues to be awesome. I'm pretty sure I'm showing more Gary Trent shots than I'm showing Paul George shots. It's just because I love Gary Trent, and I say that every time I show him shooting a shot. I love Gary Trent, and he gets that layup. It is a layup. This is a layup for Gary Trent. 3 3-pointers in a row again. Oh my God, I love him. All right, some more players that I love. Jeremy Grant, 3-pointer out of the corner. Wait, did I just say? No, wait, they tied it at 3-3. I'm an idiot. This is Game 7. We had the 3-2 lead, so they tied it at 3-3. This is what happens when you do commentary without any scripting to it, because doing the scripting would make me go insane. Somehow give Dame a 3-pointer because of Andre Roberson going towards the basket, because that's a great decision to make. But 3-pointer for Jeremy Grant right there. That is his fourth of the game, I believe it is. A nice drive there by Paul George. Actually, I think that was his third of the game. Layup there, or hook shot, I guess, right there for LaMarcus Aldridge. Mid-range shot as well off of the post-up from Paul George. Joel Embiid was overcommitted in the paint. Not committed in the paint enough there as Paul George gets the easy dunk, and then he gets his fadeaway over Josh Richardson. But, yeah, LaMarcus Aldridge, it's fun scoring with him. He also gets cut out of the footage a lot because, like, his fadeaways are kind of boring. But Paul George, nice crossover there, gets to the basket. Well, I'm in the fourth quarter of Game 7, and I'm barely putting any intensity to it because that's just kind of how I am. But play right there to Ben Simmons for the dunk. Dame misses that three, but Embiid is right there to get it to Beal, who misses the three. So this fourth quarter, we're really getting hot, and the Blazers are really not. So they're missing their shots, we're making the shots. That lob got through and worked. Like, everything was hitting in this fourth quarter. Dunk right there by Paul George. Dame missing the deep three that he's been making this whole damn series. Ben on the fast break. I tell Paul George to cut. That's an alley-oop right there. So, 6 games out of 7 here. Very close, but fourth quarter comes around and we just turned it on and demolish the Blazers. And that means that your Philadelphia 76ers are now NBA champions. As we see Gary Trent, the real MVP, celebrate at half court. All the AI fans celebrating in the crowd. Grant hugs Embiid and is holding the championship over our star players for some reason. But my God, this series has been fun, and I've really appreciated all of you guys sticking around for the ride. And then, of course, Ben Simmons Finals MVP. If we look at the stats here, 33, 19, and 7, 15 for 19 from the field. George with a good game. Grant had his best game of the series with 4 3-pointers. And then fourth quarter, it was the story of the fourth quarter. 29 points on 70% shooting versus 14 on 29%. You're not going to win the game playing like that in the fourth quarter. 22 episodes and 3 seasons in, and we have finally achieved our goal of winning a championship. But to close this series out, I figured let's bring it back to the very beginning. This series started with Ben Simmons, and it's got to end with him. This series was really my attempt of seeing what a team built around Ben Simmons could look like at its fullest potential. And as good as I think I built that team around him, it was up to him to deliver, and deliver he did. He became an MVP, Finals MVP, and of course a champion. And even crazier than that, he hit a couple of 3-pointers. Also, those Finals MVP numbers that look insane is because adjusting to sim minutes, that thing, yeah, it really blows numbers out of proportion because I played 6 of the 7 games in full, so the numbers become absurd when you do that. Then you have to mention the help around Ben that allowed this to happen. CJ, Gary Trent, Drew Holiday, and Jeremy Grant all basically came out of the Embiid trade. Drew and Jeremy were not in it directly, but they were traded for picks that were in that trade. CJ wasn't as amazing in the third regular season, but he turned it on in the playoffs and had multiple good games, not to mention his role as the main shot creator for 2 years that he did a serviceable job in. Gary Trent somehow became a third option for us for a while because the guy just could not miss from 3. He led the league in 3-point percentage 2 times and set the record for most threes in a playoff game with us. Drew's role as a scorer was drastically reduced on this team as time went on, but he remained a fantastic secondary playmaker and an even more fantastic defensive player and leader. And Jeremy Grant managed to get traded to this team right before his value in real life became way too high, but he was a fantastic 3-and-D player for us. Then last but not least, we have to talk about Paul George, the guy who got this team over the top. As great as the team was previous to George getting here, it just wasn't enough. But luckily, with Kawhi leaving the Clippers, we were able to snag George, and he was awesome for us. His scoring punch, as well as him adding to an already very good defense, was what this team needed to get over the top. So that was the Sixers series, and would you look at that? I actually finished a MyNBA/MyGM series after multiple attempts. Gotta say I'm surprised, but y'all showed enough support on this series that I had to finish this one, even if I did kind of limp towards towards the finish line at the end there. Seriously though, thank you for showing support to this series. It's probably going to be a few weeks before the next one starts up, even if I do one at 2K21. I don't know, because adding on to my new schedule, this series became very hard to find time for, but I might do a new one, and if so, it'll come in a few weeks. And I don't know what team I'm doing. Even if I do that, probably the Pelicans, maybe the Bulls, maybe the Rockets, maybe the Hornets. I'm completely up in the air. But regardless, that is it. That was the series. Peace.